Okay, let's just take a practical manifestation of
Sure.
this, which is there are plenty of now bills around the country in state houses on the question of girls' sport, women's sport.
Mm-hmm.
And there you have
children's sports, by the way.
So what? And children's sports?
No, it's children's sports. That's what all these bills are about. They're about hurting kids.
Well, they're also no. Well, I'm just thinking about the question of fairness in sporting contests.
Okay.
In which I've been persuaded, and I think the data seem to be pretty compelling, that the advantage that a recently transitioned trans woman has over people who have just been women biologically from the get-go renders the competition unfair and actually violates the sex-based rights of the cis girls and women. There is a conflict here, right?
No. Well, no, the premise is just all wrong, Andrew. There aren't those studies. There are not real studies that show that. And by the way, if you just look at all of the trans kids who are playing sports successfully, they aren't running the board. They aren't winning everything. They're still being sometimes some of them are really good and they win all the time. Some of them just aren't. And this is the same argument they've made about lesbians. This is the same argument that they've made against.
So there's no distinction, you think, between men and women in sports?
Yeah,
in biologically speaking,
in many sports there is, yeah.
There is what? There's
a difference, but there's also
when you look at the 100 meters dash, and you can see that obviously women do not run as fast as men, and if you count the advantage that a trans woman has by virtue in high school, by virtue of being born and growing up with all those hormones, you can take other hormones, but your body structure, your bone structure, your weight, your muscles, they're all stronger than most women's.
This is just assuming such a homogeneity of men and homogeneity of women.
No, it's not. There's almost no crossover. You could get high school boys can beat professional women in all sorts of contests.
No, are you saying then that when I was in high school, if I had been on the track team,
competing against girls,
I would beat all the girls.
Almost certainly. You certainly have a clear advantage.
Yes, but some of the girls have advantages over some of the other girls.
But not enough to overcome.
And when I say
discrepancy.
Girls and boys here, I am talking in the sense that you are, just to be clear. I'm not acknowledging that who you think is a girl, and et cetera. But no, Andrew, there's just not these studies. It just isn't. It isn't true. There is not an overwhelming advantage or a significant advantage. There are hormonal advantages, but
and there are the resilient effects of 15 or 16 or 18, 20 years of. We actually have examples of people who've switched, like in powerlifting, for example. So a woman
so these are adults.
A man switched to being transgender and broke every record in sight because powerlifting is so related to muscle mass, to bone structure, and to strength.
None of these bills are about that. None of these bills are about that at
all. They are. Many of them are about
children.
But aren't they also about the high school sports and protecting?
Guess who goes to high school? It's children.
Okay, well then
it's teenagers.
We're just talking about teenagers.
But
then.
We're not talking about professionals. We're not talking about
we're
college.
Talking about amateurs who are competing against one another, and one particular group has a clear advantage over the majority. And if
they don't,
we just. I just disagree. I think the empirical evidence is, of course, they're better. I just look at. I was thinking about women's rugby in England, and there's one amazing quote there's one trans woman on the team who is literally twice the height and twice the weight of every other rugby player in her team, and they're all like, "This is great. We're all integrated," and they're like, "Well, yes, we have had a lot of broken bones, and normally when she tackles someone, she folds like a deck chair.
But that's
they fold
just
like
the old stereotypes.
But no, it's not a stereotype; it's reality.
In that one case, but
let's take just that one case.
Well, that one case. But look at all of the different cases where there is that kind of an advantage from one assigned female at birth to another assigned female at birth. Or
yes, but the difference is much less than when you have been. That's why we don't have co-ed sports.
yeah,
I don't see your argument.
Andrew,
I don't see from your argument why all sports shouldn't be made co-ed. If there are no real generic differences in sporting ability between men and women,
do you know what I
then
found fascinating?
all of these contests should be for both sexes.
Billiards are separated by men and women, which I find interesting. Near as I can tell, it's either just custom or there's a height advantage for billiards. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But I've never understood why billiards was.
But you can understand why, say, tennis is segregated according to biological sex. And you know what Martina Navratilova says about this?
Yeah.
You can't find a better...
Yes, she most recently spoke on Groundhog's Day, which I thought was emblematic.
She had a transgender... There's no evidence that she's in any way phobic. She had a transgender coach for many times. She's out and proud lesbian. But
what were they saying about her when she was dominating everybody in the 70s and 80s? You know, they were saying she had an unfair advantage.